G'day and welcome to the Game Day Squad NRL Fantasy Show. I'm Stu, that's Dill, and we're the Fantasy Bros. Back again, partnering with Game Day Squad to bring you all you need to know to succeed in GDS Rugby League Finals Edition. Dill, we've had 4 cracking games of footy in week 1 of the finals, but with the Warriors and the Roosters now eliminated from the competition, the Storm and Brisbane earning a week off, we've now got 2 knockout finals where it's do or die for those 4 remaining teams. Those team lists are in. And we've got a little longer to mull over our squads leading into Saturday's game 1. So we've got a couple of extra days to work out who we're going to put into our teams. Before we get to those positional analysis and let our viewers know who we're selecting, how did you go in week 1 of the finals?
Yeah, g'day, mates. G'day, viewers and listeners. Firstly, obviously, you had to bring up the Warriors going down against the Penrith Panthers there. That hurt a little bit, but obviously, we talked last week about the likelihood of the Warriors getting up. They obviously put up a big fight for about 60 minutes of that game, and for a moment there, I did have some hope that maybe we were going to topple the competition powerhouse in the Penrith Panthers, but we just weren't good enough at the end of the day. And that was kind of my theme of the weekend, really. I followed that up by a different code and my team also getting absolutely pumped. And then I followed it up by ending up 10th in Challenger, which was my best result in GDS. So I was going into that final game of the Broncos Raiders. And I was well in range of the podium. I was doing some calculations and having some conversations with a few coaches, and it was looking like I might get up there. And unfortunately, just having the 4 players left in that game just wasn't enough. I'm guessing that some of those players that finished on top just had maybe a couple of extras, and they got the job done with a couple of pods there. I have a sneaking suspicion maybe KO Weeks featured in a couple of players' teams there that finished top of the table. So, 10th for me, mate. But how did you go on the weekend?
Well done on that 10th, mate. Yeah, you outdid me. My best place was 21st in Champions, so just outside that top 20 there. 100 points exactly off the winner, so a bit of ground to make up. But look, I'm going to blame that on one thing, and that's agonising over who I'm going to select at position 5 for this weekend's Rugby League prize card draft. Speaking of which, that does kick off, yes, this Sunday at 1 p.m. Dill, what can viewers expect, particularly those winning coaches? What can they expect to happen this Sunday?
Yeah, mate, we're looking forward to that prize card draft, aren't we? It's been a long time coming. You getting that 5th pick. I think I've got 29th and 33rd, which I believe I'm the only coach since the Fez rule has been put in place to be able to have 2 picks in the prize card draft, which I'm pumped for. Obviously, I've got to wait a long time for my 2 to come up, and there'll be plenty of players flying off the board. Yeah, those that are keen to join us, we will be hosting that show 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. We've got some links that we'll be putting up in our show notes, as well as over on Discord, etc., and all over our socials, so you can catch up and watch as the coaches go through their prize card draft. What that means is prize cards, they are 1 of 1 for each season. So once Nathan Cleary is taken off the board at spot 5 by that Stewie Moi, he won't be available for anyone else, unfortunately. What the prize card does, it is a 1.4 multiplier, so it is the equivalent of a diamond. But if you're going to play them in Classic or Challenger, they're only going to cost you that of a silver. So the massive advantage there, being able to really save some salary cap. So it's an awesome incentive that the boys have brought into the competition. Really something to play for, and allows us to have some more competitive opportunities going into next season. The fun of it is that we get to sit there and host the show that I feel like is going to go for a few hours, and it'll be heaps of fun. We've got a few guests joining us, I believe, live on stream as well to announce their picks. So it should be heaps of fun. I can't wait for that. So 1 p.m. That is AEST time as well. So those people joining us from overseas, make sure you check out those times that work for you, and we'll be posting those links everywhere. Looking forward to it.
So am I, mate. Let's see if we can get it done in 3 hours and 5 minutes. We start at 1 o'clock, and that'll take us through to 4:05 p.m. Just when that Dogs and Panthers game kicks off.
We might have to have a little sneaky watch along, maybe of the Doggies game, the Doggies Panthers game afterwards somewhere. I know the GDS boys will be joining us as well, so we might have to tee something up down the Gold Coast. That'd be a bit of fun there for everyone.
Let's do it. Let us know if you're in the area and we'll get something organised. Yeah, really looking forward to that, mate. So obviously, those that are involved in that event on Sunday afternoon, if you were one of those winning coaches, you probably would have already received your email and replied to the Game Day Squad team already with your prize card selections. But if you haven't, I think time's just about run out. So if you are one of those 33 winning coaches, or 32 because Dill's got a couple of prizes, make sure you get your picks into Cal or Tom as soon as you can. And if you want to get involved on that live stream, reach out to them as well, and you can change your pick live on air. So that'll be pretty exciting watching a few of you panic when a couple of players you expected to fall to you have been taken earlier. It's bound to be really exciting. The one that you and Tom did this time last year was sensational, and it's only going to get bigger and better. So for all those new players, tune in on Sunday afternoon as well. See how that all works, and you'll see what you can get involved in next year if you get your squads organised and win one of those cards. So for those new users, there's no reason to stop listening or to stop trusting the bros. That's our new motto, isn't it? Still trust the bros, because there's 3 prize cards between the 2 of us. We've been here every single Wednesday night. We've been telling you who we're playing in our squads, and if you followed along, chances are you've got your hands on a prize or at least a couple of packs throughout the season as well. So if you are a new user or you want to get a few mates involved, get them to download the app or jump on the website. They can still use the code FBRL25. They can still get their 9-player common packs, 3 of them, and that'll go a long way to starting their final squads, as well as getting their 2026 squads ready, and hopefully the first step along to winning their very own prize card next year. Make sure that you're following us on our socials, on YouTube, particularly on Instagram. We've branched out a little bit with plenty of AFL and football content going live too, and we're only going to ramp that up over the next few months. And we've got some Big Bash coming up pretty soon as well. So a lot happening, Dill. Anything I'm forgetting there?
I don't think so, mate. They can just make sure they go along to those socials, as you said, at Fantasy Bros AU. There's a few other things cooking in the background as well that we've been touching on over the last few weeks, and we'll continue to mention as well. So there's a few things happening in the background for the Fantasy Bros that we're really keen on. As you said, obviously those big couple of things are those branching out and expanding to new sports across the GDS platform. And as we always say, we are exclusive to Game Day Squad. That is all the fantasy sport that we cover. So we love doing it, and we love the competition as well as the community that we have. So get involved, get your mates involved. It'll be awesome. And we might even have a few competitions coming up soon across various platforms to get new users involved as well.
Absolutely. Rightio. G'day. We've got Sif in the chat. Howdy. Let's get rowdy. As per usual, it wouldn't be a stream without Sif getting rowdy. Cal's trusting the bros. Good on him. Let's get that hashtag trending. G'day, Skip. Skip and I were having a bit of a chat today about a potential prize card select. Cheeky picks up the sleeve. I'll do my best not to reveal any of them too soon, Skip. And we got Melissa, as always, keen for the prize draft. To be honest, the AFL one was a lot of fun. Yeah, we're going to go one step better and make this NRL one even better. All righty. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you say good day in the chat and let us know who you're starting in your squads for finals round 2. Before you do that, let us know who you think are going to win these 2 matches this weekend. Dill, we've only got the 2 matches, unfortunately. We've got to wait all the way until Saturday night. Whatever are we going to do? That match is the Canberra Raiders taking on the Sharkies down there at GIO Stadium. The Raiders have just gone through 94 minutes of heartache with that, thinking that they've won the match on 2 occasions, only to have their hearts broken by Benny Hunt there in the 94th minute. The winner of that match has a date with the Melbourne Storm down in Melbourne next week. And we got a clash down there in Sydney between the Doggies and the Panthers. I think that's going to be an absolute belter of a game. That stadium should be filled. There's going to be a lot of passion, a lot of fire, both on the field and in the stands, you'd imagine. And they've got a date with Brisbane in Suncorp Stadium next weekend as well. Who are you liking from these 2 matchups, Dill?
Yeah, I think it's hard to go past the favourites this weekend. Obviously, the Raiders have got a lot of work to do. As you said, the 94 minutes and the heartbreak, not once, but twice. And then Benny Hunt with a bit of a finals retribution, I would suggest. Obviously not a grand final revenge that he's obviously needing to make up for, but obviously he got the job done there for the Broncos. So yeah, I'll be interested to see how they go about managing that fatigue and those energy levels heading into that game, and whether at the back end of that game the Sharks might look to exploit that potentially as well, and what that rotation might look like for the Raiders. But look, the Raiders have been a dominant side all season, and I don't think that's going to change. And we've talked about their attacking options a lot, and we'll talk about it again tonight in terms of the players that we're playing. So yeah, for me, I think the Raiders will get the job done. And I think the same with Penrith Panthers. I read something earlier in the week to say that this is the first time, pretty much all season, that they're going to have a full strength side. So that's pretty scary, knowing that the Panthers have done so well this season, considering they started so poorly and they haven't even had their full strength squad there. So yeah, I'm a little bit nervous about that going into this, the rest of the final series, and it could really easily see another Penrith Panthers win, another premiership for them as well. I spoke about it earlier in the week with you boys in our separate chat, how interesting it is that almost every stadium, every state, every country gets a finals match. It's really, really interesting to see that Melbourne and Brisbane get a finals match, as did New Zealand, as do obviously the Raiders home of Canberra, and then Sydney as well. So it's great to see that NRL have covered all aspects of the finals and across the country.
Not like you to be right up there with all of those conspiracy theories involving the Warriors. All right, enough about the matches. Let's get into what everyone's here for, and that's seeing who we're picking in our teams this week. So hopefully we can steer you into a couple of decent picks or some pods to get a bit of an advantage on your opponents in week 2 of the finals. Dill, let's start with the hookers. And for me, it's pretty simple. I'm going to break Blake Brayley once again.
Yeah.
As you can see on the screen, we don't have a tremendous amount of options, considering guys like Corey Pakes, Luke Summerton, and Reid Marnie off the bench are getting a spot on our screen. But when we've only got 2 games of footy, some of those selections are really difficult. So I think Blake Brayley, Tommy Starling, and maybe Corey Pakes. He did get some big minutes last week. Actually, that's he's not even playing this week, so you can put a red line straight through that one. But it's just really between Blake Brayley and Tommy Starling, isn't it? For me, Blake Brayley, we've spoke about him plenty of times this year already. When there was a whole 16 teams that we could pick from, we were still going in Blake Brayley's direction because he was getting through plenty of base, making 40-odd tackles a game, running the ball a lot. He really broke out in terms of his running game, and he looks a certainty for a sky blue jersey in the next few years of his career. For me, he's the only really guaranteed 80-minute forward, 80-minute hooker this weekend. He'll get through those 40-odd tackles again. And we've seen the ceiling that he does possess when he does choose to run the footy. It's a do-or-die game. So, look, if they're chasing the match, the Sharkies' spine are really going to need to be at their absolute best. And what he does with ball in hand will go a long way to sort of deciding the outcome of this match. So, for me, Blake Brayley, pretty simple, but Tommy Starling looks to be a really good, obvious pod. He played 86 straight before being subbed in that nail biter. He made 46 tackles. He did miss 6, so it's probably just the safety in Brayley, probably not going to miss as many tackles, and he might have a bit of upside with his running game.
Yeah, I think you've really nailed it on the head there. Look, like you said, we speak of Brayley, and we've spoken about him ad nauseum for the whole season, really, and that's for good reason. He's the highest averaging hooker in the competition, sitting on 52 for the season, for the regular season. And he's also, look, when we filter for top 8 sides only, his average drops slightly, but it's still one of the highest in the competition for the hookers against top 8 sides. And that is 47 GDS points. So it's still a strong outlook, especially against the Raiders, who allow an average of 40 to top 8 hookers this season. Which is the most from any from any team allowing to top 8 hookers. So I think there's a real good opportunity for Brayley to do what he does best in terms of that base, and then look for an opportunity to get over the line himself, or put someone like Fanua Blake through a little hole. I think he got Hazelton over a couple of weeks ago, and then he got another middle forward over last week as well. So there's plenty of opportunities for Brayley, I think, through the middle there. And as you said, Starling, I think, is another really good option. He's averaging 46 against top 8 sides this year, and that includes a 56 against the Broncos last week. So like you said, playing that 86 straight, we saw an increase in his minutes, which have resulted in an increase in his output as well. Obviously, with Owen Paddy on the bench and playing 86 minutes from Starling, he might get some reduced time. We don't know what that sort of looks like yet. So for me, I'm just going to stick with Brayley. And I think most coaches are going to go Brayley. As you say, there's not many other options. So it's probably a good opportunity to play that salary pod and sort of get that 5, 10, 15 maybe points if you play something like a gold in that contender competition or in the classic as well. It is hard to go past Brayley. So for that reason, he's a salary pod, and he could be a big difference come the end of the round where you're looking for an extra 5 or 6 points for sure.
Absolutely. Not sure if Mel read your mind or you read hers, but she's just posted, hard to go past Brayley this week. I think you said the exact same words, and Sif Kanga is on Brayley as well. Look, I wouldn't be surprised to see some people run out the Brayley and Tommy Starling pairing. I think that would be a pretty nice way to pot up against some other players, particularly, with the limited options through the middles and the edge forwards. We can obviously pick 2 on the bench from the middle, edge and hooker position. So go on a Tommy Starling on the bench may be a pretty good option after all. Speaking of those middles, mate, there's that one option that we've spoken about at length this season again, and that's Isaiah Yeo. So similar to Brayley, I can see him being in plenty of squads, but from there, we got plenty of good options, but not really any outstanding options. We obviously don't have a Payne Haas, a Terrell May, those types of names. So we're going to have to delve deeper into the guys that are averaging fairly similar, and we've got to work out who's the guys that are going to get plenty of minutes, get plenty of work, and maybe even find some attacking stats. Where are you leaning for the
and I
forwards?
guess that's the key, the attacking stats that you talk about there. And he hasn't had a super season, but I'm looking at someone like Adam Fanua-Blake. He does average 54 against top 8 sides this year. So he did start so well, going back to the beginning of the season, particularly against top 8 sides, where he had scores between 65 and 80. And we're sort of thinking, this is the Adam Fanua-Blake of old that we expect from the Warriors, and which, he'd cross the line 8 or 10 times in the season to get over for a try. But since round 12, really, that consistency sort of dropped off a bit, and he's sort of remained around that 45 GDS to 50 GDS points, which correlated with probably his time on field as well. We saw those minutes reduce, which he did warn us at the start of the season, and we talked about it in our preseason. I remember, we talked about the fact that he's probably not going to see the minutes, and as a result, his score is going to decrease. But so for that reason, I don't have huge expectations for Adam Fanua-Blake, but I think if he can sort of get something together around that 45 to 50, and then with that try scoring upside, he has only scored 6 tries this season, but of those 6 tries, if you look at all other middle forwards, he's topping the try scoring numbers for middle forwards. So yes, his try scoring ability has decreased moving to the Sharks, but he's still got that upside that I think potentially could be a difference maker this weekend. When you look at any of those players there, and they're all averaging very similar numbers around that sort of 50-ish mark. You look at Joe Tarpanese, 53 for the season, Lindsay Smith, that 49 for the season. So they're all really similar. So that upside for me comes in Adam Fanua-Blake's probably ability to cross the line.
Yeah, he's been sort of someone that I've been really hesitant to even consider for a long, long time this season. And when we've only got 4 teams to choose from, a big Adam Fanua-Blake game certainly wouldn't surprise. I'm not likely to go in that direction this week. A big reason for that is just looking at the scorecard from last weekend between the Raiders and the Broncos. What do all these players have in common very quickly? Katoni Staggs, Dean Mariner, Reece Walsh, Josiah Karapani, and Gemma Shimasaki.
They all scored big, and I think they all crossed over the line, did they not?
They all scored, and they're all the outside backs. So I think the Raiders are really strong there through the middle, and their weaknesses really got exposed on that right-hand side. And a lot of the tries came sort of from that defence collapsing in and then leaving plenty of space on the outside. So I can see maybe an Adam Fanua-Blake, Blake Brayley sort of maybe bending the line a little bit, but they're probably going to score some of their points down the flanks, and that's probably why we're looking at some of their outside backs as well. So, yeah, Fanua-Blake, probably a decent shout. He's every chance to cross over. He'll fire up for a big game like this. All of these players, really, if they don't win, they're off to Mad Monday. So they're going to put their all in, and he's the type of bloke that can just absolutely rip in and have a big game. Mate, we'll talk about some of the Raiders forwards shortly, but for me, I really like Isaiah Yeo's partner there in the forward pack in Lindsay Smith. He's promised a lot. He's had a number of sort of sky blue appearances, and he will have plenty in his next few seasons. But look, he's really only been getting that 40 to 50 minutes for the Penrith Panthers. But last week in that matchup against the Warriors, he did get 55 minutes, and that's something I really like from those middle forwards who can bend the line, who can do some damage with an offload or a tackle break. It's just really that minutes. And that's why Adam Fanua-Blake sort of worries me a little bit. I really like Lindsay Smith this week, mostly because of the Penrith Panthers bench. And if it remains the same, then I can see some real upside in him sticking to those big minutes. And we know that, if those forwards get big minutes, they're on the field longer, more tackle breaks, more tackles, more offloads, and maybe a chance of falling across the line when the opposition forwards are tired. This is the bench. They've got Brad Schneider on the bench, so maybe there's still some question marks or some doubts over Cleary. Obviously, Luke Summerton probably won't go the distance. So they're already that one middle forward down. We saw Liam Henry only get the 25 minutes from the bench last week, and Garner only got the 19. So with only really Isaiah Papali'i, I think he only got 38 minutes. That's still not a lot of minutes going around from that bench. So it's looking like the Penrith Panthers are going to rely heavily on that starting pack. And look, fingers crossed, touch wood, it doesn't happen. But one injury to anyone in that forward pack, and immediately that's an increase in minutes for everyone else. So look, Lindsay Smith has sort of flirted with some really big scores this season. He did top the tackle count for the Panthers last week. He did raise the bat. He scored 50, he got 52 tackles. But what was really impressive, he matched Isaiah Yeo in terms of running meters and total runs as well. I think they both got 14 and 132 or something in that vicinity. So, yeah, I like Lindsay Smith. He's going to be that big, strong leader over the next few years alongside Isaiah Yeo in that pack, and he's going to have a big finals series, I think. And the more I talk about him, the more I'm really confident he's going to have a big game.
Yeah, the more you talk about, the more I'm thinking I might bring him into my side somehow. Look, I do like what he's been doing, and I think we talked about him quite a lot through the middle part of the season, where Isaiah Yeo spent some time obviously being rested, and then playing for New South Wales, and we talked about the benefit of having someone like Lindsay Smith who can come in and play that lock role or play prop as well, which we've seen throughout majority of the season. And as a result, look, he had some really good scores. When we filter by top 8 scores, he's averaging about 46 against top 8 sides. But then, like you said, that last week against the Warriors, he did score that 60 points because he had that increase in minutes. And if that continues like the bench suggests it will, then yeah, obviously he's a great option and someone that I think you've just started talking me into him potentially, and it might be someone that I might play in a few of my different squads and have sort of the Adam Fanua-Blake, Lindsay Smith diversifying across my squads. So definitely that's someone that I'm going to look at. The other player I'm looking at potentially, who we spoke about quite a bit earlier in the year as well, is that man of Max King for the Bulldogs up front. He's had a fairly good season in terms of GDS scoring. He's averaged almost 50 for the regular season. We filter that by top 8 sides. His average drops slightly to 45, but he has had scores against the Panthers earlier in the season of 60 and 45. So I think he's got every opportunity to replicate that and do something similar. Obviously, he doesn't have that attacking upside like some others that we potentially are looking at as well, in terms of like Adam Fanua-Blake and even Horse in terms of his tackle breaking ability. But Max King just seems to get down and just get everything done. He's just a really base stat kind of guy, and you often don't even see him on the field because he just gets in, makes those tackles and gets back in the line really quickly. So if that's someone that's a really safe option, I think that again, I'd be happy if I got away with that 45 or 50 and then had some upside in other positions where there's probably some more opportunity to score some more points. So I think for me, I'm kind of keeping to the safe model with a couple of risky plays in terms of the Adam Fanua-Blakes, etc., and then looking for taking more risk elsewhere. But again, there's opportunity where you might only play your 3. You might just play the Yeo, Horsburgh and Lindsay Smith up front, and then look for a couple of extra edges or the hooker as well, as you said, as an extra bench player. But for me, I'm just going to take that little bit of safety and know that I'll get that 45 to 50 points and then look for some risk elsewhere.
So how many middles are you going to play?
Yes, I'm playing the 4 at the moment. So Yeo, Horse, Adam Fanua-Blake and King. I think Horse is too good not to have in the side again. He's averaging 50 against top 8 sides. He scored 51 against the Sharks in round 5. So he likes sort of matching up against them. And look, we look at his numbers and what they look like in terms of when he started at prop versus when he started at lock. and he's averaging 2 tackle breaks or just slightly above 2 tackle breaks when he's at lock, and then 130 plus running meters at lock as well. So I really like that output from him. And I'm not mistaken, I think he played all 40 minutes in the first half. He didn't have a spell until early in the second half, which I love to see as well. It means that potentially he might even go for a lot longer in the game as well and have sort of 70 minutes instead of sort of that 60, 55 minutes that we've seen from him in the past. Either way, he's a PPM machine, and he's scoring at least 1, if not more, points per minute that he's on the field. And really, at the end of the day, that's all we can ask for from our middle forwards. You know, they've got a job to do. And similar to Max King, run the ball up, make your tackles, and put a bit of fire in the belly of the rest of your side. And I think Horsburgh does that really well.
Yeah, I'm with you there, mate. Horsburgh will be in my side as well. You just know he's going to absolutely rip in for every single carry and tackle he is on that field. He will not leave that field a disappointed man. He is going to carry the Mighty Raiders to a victory.
Yeah.
And hopefully within 80 minutes and not any longer, because I am wary about him and Tapine. Look, they're both coming off big matches. It was a 94-minute match. Tapine played 64 of those minutes, Horsburgh 70, but that can't be easy for big boys after 27 rounds of tough footy to come into a finals match just like that, particularly with all the emotion, being up by, what was it, about 18 points at one stage and then thought they've won the match twice. It's certainly taken its toll. Let's see how well they bounce back. So, look, I am wary of both of those in my team, but look, they're the big minute men in that Canberra Raiders pack. We saw that in that 94-minute match. Those were the two forwards that play through the middle that really got any sort of significant inflated minutes, and they were on the field in the crucial stages. So Ricky's obviously entrusting them, and because they're on the field for so long, they're just getting through so much work, like you mentioned. Horsburgh does a little bit of ball playing, which can result, in some tackle breaks, some offloads, some line break assists. For me, Tapine is just that workhorse. He can have those big games where he's on. He might come off at the 25 or the 30-minute break, but he's already on about 40 points because he's just put his head down. He's absolutely tackled everything that's moved, and he's also throwing some offloads out the back when the Raiders are getting a bit of a roll on. So that's the sort of Tapine and Horsburgh I'm hoping to see this weekend. I hope there's sort of no rust, no side effects from that that match on Sunday. I just think there's a bit more upside in those two and Tapine over, maybe some of those fringe middles like AFB and King that you mentioned, who will probably get, your 40 to 50. Tapine, we've seen some 30s in him, but he's capable of a 60 or a 70 in it. Just wouldn't surprise if he does something special this weekend.
Yeah, it sounds like something he would do, isn't it? And look, on taps, he has had some decent games, or some big games, I should say, against top 8 sides. He does have that low score of 32 that he had in round 1 against the Warriors. But then if we take that out, he is averaging 63 and almost 64 GDS points against top 8 sides. So Tapine obviously keen to get up for the big games, particularly against those top 8 sides. He does have an 81 there against the Panthers as well, which is massive score from Taps. Before we move into the edges, let's catch up on some comments from everyone watching along. Melissa earlier asked if we would dress up. Cal, and I'm assuming she meant Tom, wore suit jackets with shorts and thongs. Mel, that sounds exactly like my style. I think I will dress up like I am heading to the races. We've got a dress for the occasion. So, yeah, I think I might get the suit jacket out. Maybe even try and find a top hat to go along with it. Maybe. What do you reckon, Stu?
Not a fan. Please don't.
We'll see. The other one that I want to talk about, Stephen here. He's just jumped over from the AFLW stream. Good on you, Stephen. Thanks for joining us. Who plays off in the grand final? We covered that, I guess, to an extent a little bit earlier, but happy to touch on it. But might just focus on these players as I don't think I can compete this week. If you are someone that's sitting there and you feel like you don't have some of the cards that maybe you won't be able to fill up a whole side, please feel free to shoot through a message to us over on Discord DM. We're more than happy to try and help you out. And I know there are plenty of people in the audience right now that would do the same. So if you do need some players to be able to get a team together, whether it's starter or classic or contender, we'll see what we can do to help you. In terms of who plays off in the grand final, Stu, I'm guessing you're sticking with your Raiders. Who plays them in the grand final?
I was really concerned last week looking at the draw that the Raiders got up over the Bronx. They'd have a prelim against Penrith, the team in form, the team without any injuries. We avoid the Panthers. And if we get up over the Sharkies this weekend, take on the Storm, who weren't amazing last weekend. They've got some injury troubles of their own, and it's probably a slightly easier game. The Raiders have had some really good history against the Storm, particularly in finals matches as well. A big upset, I think it was in 2019 when the Raiders did knock over the Storm. So, look, I'm actually stoked that the Raiders are avoiding Penrith in that prelim, so I can see a Canberra and Penrith grand final.
Ooh, so you think Penrith are going to knock over the Brisbane Broncos? I would love to see a repeat of last week's game, and we have the Broncos up against the Raiders in the grand final, and it goes to Golden Point. That would be an unreal fairy tale. And then Jamal Fogarty in his final game for the Raiders just slots one through, and you take home the premiership ring. That would be a great way to finish this season. And if that happens, look, I'll say it here on stream. If that happens, I will give away my signed Raiders jersey that I won at Magic Round this year. So if the Raiders get up and win the premiership, we're going to give away a Raiders signed jersey. So there you go. A couple of other comments. I'm not sure what Walkie's up to, but he's just jumped in the chat and just said, ha, 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 ha. Potentially that could be referring to maybe the Raiders losing. I'm not quite sure. And then Mel's also joined us again and said, ask the bros, trust the bros. I like that from Mel. That's great. And then Walkie back again, offering his services to everyone. I've got lots of spare plats if anyone needs. Good on you, Walkie. So get into Walkie's DMs. He'd be more than happy to help everyone out with some cards as well. Alrighty, mate, let's jump into the edges. Who are we looking at this round?
Yeah, let's do it. We've spoken plenty about the Canberra Raiders forward pack. It continues in this segment as well. I'm all over Hudson Young, and I'm going to stick with Zach Hosking once again. Yes, again, I'm wary of just how much energy these boys have in their legs. But look, they've been really good all season long. They had a bye in round 24. They were all rested in round 27. So it's not like, they've got a million minutes under their belts in the last couple of months. They should be well rested. Yes, that definitely took it out of them, both physically and emotionally on Sunday. But they're professional footballers. They would have had plenty of time to digest that and move on to this weekend. So Hudson Young, for me, we spoke about his inability to find the try line since about week 12. We said that it wouldn't surprise if he found some positive regression in the try scoring department. It only took about 9 minutes for him to follow through a kick and score a try nice and early. So look, he despite the sin bin, look, he still gets through plenty of work. I don't know how you can get sin bin for talking to a bloke, by the way, but that's probably not for tonight's discussion. Look, he'll get through plenty of tackles, plenty of runs. I think the Sharkies are pretty frail on that right hand side with Nicho Hynes. I think that's going to be a bit of the game plan. Ethan Strange digging into the line and using KO Weeks to speed out the back, or hitting Hudson Young nice and short there and getting under Nicho Hynes' skin a little bit, roughing him up a little bit and making him want to pass the footy more than run it because he's taken a couple of knocks. So, yeah, Hudson Young, I don't think many people will overthink that. I think he's a really simple play. Jacob Preston is going to be pretty popular too. But I'll let you talk about him. For me, Zachy Hosking, he's just a super hardworking edge forward. Ricky Stewart's trusted him to play some big minutes. He hasn't brought Matty Nicholson into that side. So, early on in the season, Matty Nicholson actually had that spot over Hosking, and Hosking was playing through the middle. So Hosking's been really good defensively. He's been solid with the ball in hand. He runs nice lines off Jamal Fogarty's right shoulder and has scored some tries. But for me, it's the work rate. Plenty of tackles. He made 56 against the Bronx, and he actually spent a bit of time in the middle as well. So there's chances of him doing that again this weekend, playing sort of that 60-65 on the edge, and then maybe spelling some of those bigger boys who are a little bit tired through the middle, and he's just going to go through plenty of tackles there. Look, he'll be running at that same edge as Trindle, and between both Trindle and Hynes, I like that matchup of Strange and Young, Fogarty and Hosking to do a little bit of damage on those fringes.
Yeah, the only concern I guess I have with Zach Hosking, and I loved him last week, and I was so keen to have him in my side. It just seemed like every time there was a penalty, he was involved in it. And having a look, he had 2 penalties conceded last week and 2 errors. And it just that sort of turned me off. But now that you say he had 56 tackles, it kind of turned me back on to Zach Hosking. But still, I'm just a little bit concerned over that, the work rate and the fatigue that occurred, obviously with the Raiders side. And the other reason is I've actually got a little bit of a pod up my sleeve that I'm going to talk about in a moment that will allow me potentially to pivot back to Hosking if I need to. But yeah, on Presto, look, he is just an unreal player, and we're going to continue rolling him out in our sides no matter who he's up against. Obviously, he is up against the Penrith Panthers, which I think is an interesting matchup in itself. Last time out against the Panthers, Presto notched up 82 GS points. However, we know that was the reserve side, the under 18 side, whatever you want to call the Penrith Panthers that went out there. They weren't full strength, which is the side that's going to run out this weekend. But even against a somewhat full strength side earlier in the season in round 17, Presto still scored 60 GDS. So he's still got that opportunity to have a big game against a defensively sound team. The thing for me as well is the Panthers have actually been quite susceptible to top 8 right edges. This season have allowed 51 throughout the season to those right side edges in the top 8, and Preston himself has averaged 54 against top 8 sides. So I think all of those numbers sort of point to Preston having a big game, and we know that he gets through plenty of work, and there's plenty of upside in terms of attacking stats that Preston brings along, and he's very similar to Hudson Young. The way that they chase that ball down in the end goal, the way that they try and make something happen, whether it's off their own boot or an offload or a ball to the outside, I think sort of both players are similar molds, and for that reason, I'm playing both of them. My third edge that I'm running with at the moment, it's a bit of an interesting one, but at the moment, I've got Britton Nickera sitting in my squad. He is named in the 14 jersey. He did start on the bench last week in the 21 jersey. He played 28 minutes. And I think it was his first game back since about round 23, 24, something like that. And he obviously will be a bit better for it. If he finds his way into the starting side, and Billy Burns, I would assume, would be the one that drops out, I think I'll definitely be playing Britton Nickera. Against top 8 sides this season, Nickera hasn't scored that well, but the team he did score well against was the Raiders, putting together a performance of 63.5 GDS points back in round 5. And the key for me is that Raiders' left side defence against top 8 sides, they've actually allowed an average of 50 GDS points to right side edges. And we know that Hudson Young is really good on that left side, but I think there's just some opportunity for some right side attacking to occur down that side as well. And look, if the stats are to go anything to go by, as well as that idea of potentially Nickera coming into the side for the Sharkies, I think that's a really good opportunity for me. Potentially, though, if he does stay on the bench, I'll probably look at pivoting to someone like Hosking or Lindsay Smith. I think that's an easy option for me to go through. So yeah, I'm kind of thinking maybe I might look at Nickera and hope that that's 24 hour or hour before they let me know that Billy Burns has dropped back to the bench and Nickera is starting.
Yeah, really interesting one. He was obviously out through suspension, but there's some whispers around saying he actually got picked up a slight niggle, a bit of an injury during that time off, so he couldn't actually, maintain his fitness and train with the team and that sort of thing during the suspension. Yeah. So he wasn't fully fit, ready to go, but you're right. This is a knockout final. If he is fit or even close to, he's got to be named in that starting right edge spot. He's just too good of a player. No disrespect to Billy Burns. He's been good in the time that he's been given. But look, they'll want that Nicho Hines, Britton Nickera combination happening for the full 80 minutes if he's good to go. If he stays on the bench in that 14 jersey, it probably just is an indication that he's still not quite ready to go, and they're probably going to limit his minutes to maybe between 30 and 50. I've just been thrown out of whack a little bit. Believe it or not, everyone, I actually don't set up my camera in front of a footy ground and record these shows in front of a footy stadium. I've been mucking around with the virtual background for about the last 5 minutes trying to get it back, and I'm not having any luck. So I'm not going to dip out of the chat. But for all those people who thought I'd turn up to a footy stadium and the sun never went down, despite it being 7 o'clock. Cat's out of the bag. I apologise.
You've ruined the illusion. Look, while you get yourself composed and reorganised, I'm going to throw out a question to you, but I'll throw it to everyone in the chat first. The Britton Nickera idea of him potentially starting off the bench and playing still has me interested a little bit, depending on the minutes that he plays. And I guess the question that I want to throw out is, which player would you comfortably start even if they were playing off the bench this week in a week where we've only got the 2 or the 4 teams to pick from? Is there one player in particular to look at and go, yeah, I'd feel a little bit more comfortable?
It probably wouldn't be an edge back rower. So that's why I find it hard for Briton Nikora. If he does start, on the bench, who knows? He's unlikely to come on after 20 minutes. It has happened previously with edge forwards, but it's just not common. So with that question in mind, it's probably going to be a try-scoring freak playing in the middle for the Penrith Panthers, and that's Isaiah Papali'i. Yeah. He, despite only getting between sort of 40 and 50 minutes and typically on the low end of the 40s, he's been really good time on field for the Penrith Panthers over the past month. He scored 3 tries in his past 4 matches. He's surpassed 100 running meters every single match and averaging about 30 tackles as well. And he's breaking 4 or 5 tackles because he's just putting his head down and absolutely running over the top of as many blokes as he can. So, yeah, that's a really interesting one. We don't typically want to look for playing guys off the bench, but if they're getting through plenty of work and have some try-scoring upside, like an Isaiah Papali'i or maybe a Briton Nikora, then that could be a great way to find a pod against someone else who's just going to go for those guys that have been named in the starting 13.
Yeah, I think you really nailed it there. That the player I was thinking as well was Isaiah Papali'i, and just purely based on what he did to change that game last week against the Warriors. He came on and just absolutely dominated the ruck. And as a result, he did get over for that try as well. And he still played 50 minutes off the bench. And look, if we're looking at middle forwards and they're starting and they're getting through 50 minutes of work and they're plodding around and they're just making their sort of 40 tackles and whatever meters, someone like IPAP coming off the bench, that he's going to get some decent minutes. There's definitely an opportunity there. And it looks like a lot of people in the comments also agree. Mel has put through that Nathan Cleary is probably the most comfortable player to play off the bench. I don't know if that'll ever be the case again of Cleary coming off the bench, but definitely an opportunity there for someone like IPAP definitely to come into your side if you want to have something different. The other thing I wanted to quickly touch on before we move on is Mel's mentioned as well, this week was hard. There's some lads I've chosen which I never thought would get a game for me. I'd be really interested to hear who they are and in what position they're playing, because I tend to agree there's some names on here that we don't normally talk about. Someone like a Liam Martin or even a Viliami Kikau, we don't really touch on them a lot. Because they have such low floors, even though they do have high ceilings as well. We'd rather have some safety. But because this final series is an opportunity just to go clean slate each and every week, and you're just playing off for that week, it's definitely one of those chances where, if you think Billy Kicks is going to have a massive game, you go and play him. And look, if he gets to 20, then so be it. That pod hasn't come off. But there's really something there to be said about a potential player and someone like Billy Kicks or Liam Martin or even Isaiah Papali'i coming off the bench and having a massive game and being the difference maker for your side.
Yeah, maybe she's talking about the halves position deal, because I see 3 clear-cut options in Cleary, Fogarty and Hines. We've got Matty Burton currently named in the centres. There may be a somewhat remarkable return of Stephen Crichton. We saw him in crutches and a moon boot less than 6 days ago. So I don't know if we want to play Matty Burton when he's playing in the centres. Braden Trindle and Ethan Strange are both playing, second fiddle to the dominant halves in their footy side. So maybe Mel's looking at a pod in the halves. For me, 3 clear options: Nathan Cleary, Jamal Fogarty, Nicho Hines. Do we need to spend too long on this segment, Dill? Is there someone else that could maybe push one of these 3 for one of the top 3 halves this weekend?
I don't think so. Look, Galvin, Burton and Strange are probably the only other options for me. Interestingly, just before I move on to them, Cleary, Fogarty, Hines, they're obviously massive. They have had a great season. When you filter by averages, they're the first, third and fourth ranked halves in terms of average this season, respectively. The outlier for me is actually Nicho Hines. When we filter by top 8 scores and for each team, Cleary's averaging 68 against top 8 sides, Fogarty averaging 59, Hines slightly below his average. He's only averaging 49 against top 8 sides. So if you look at that and go, I don't like that from Hines, there's also an opportunity there to maybe play someone like Ethan Strange, and that's probably a really big boom or bust play. He's got a very low floor due to a lot of limited base stats in things like kicking meters. He doesn't have a lot of running meters in certain games as well, but he's got this massive power and short running game at the line in particular that I really like. He can break those tackles and even score a try or two, which he did against the Panthers in round 25. He notched up 80 GDS points. And the Sharks allow 45 points to right halves and 41 to left. So there's opportunity for both Fogarty and Strange, I think, in that combination to potentially have a big game and score lots of points. So, yeah, if you're looking for a pod, maybe you're not sold on Nicho Hynes. Maybe you want to go with the combination of the two Raiders players with Cleary. I wouldn't put it past people.
Yeah, I've actually got written in my notes that there is a world where I do double up on the Raiders halves and pair Fogarty with Ethan Strange. But for me, it's pretty simple. If the unthinkable does happen and the Sharkies get up over the Raiders Saturday night, Nicho is surely likely to have scored pretty well. So it's almost a win-win, really. And he's the guy that's been doing it consistently all year long. Ethan Strange has a 20 or a 30 in him, even when the Raiders score 30 or 40 points. And the ball just sort of doesn't go through him. So, yeah, look, Nicho Hynes has still proven that he can score plenty of points, even when the Cronulla Sharks don't score massively themselves. So there's a bit of safety there, but also, just that bit of an emotional hedge. I think Cal coined it a couple of weeks ago. The emotional hedge, play Nicho Hynes. And look, if he scores 26, I'll tell you what, I'll be pretty happy.
Yeah. That's a good point. And I guess, end of the day for me, it's just, that three, they're the best three halves that we've got. And I think for that reason, it's a no-brainer. A couple of people are potentially playing Galvin. Sif Kanga here got Galvin, maybe. I'd just be a little bit concerned his top 8 scores or his average against top 8 sides. He's played them 8 times across the season for the Doggies. He's only scored an average of 35 points. However, he did have a season high of 55 in round 26 against the Panthers. So, yeah, Galvin's got a little bit of upside, but I just don't know if he's going to get it done against the Panthers side. So, yeah, for me, the Strange option would be the only pod that I'd be looking at. Just following up with our question earlier that we posed around players off the bench. Again, there's a few conversations there about someone like Luke Garner coming off the bench from Mel. Ben Austin's also agreed that Luke Garner might be a decent shout. And then following Mel's discussion around Liam Martin, we've got Ben Austin saying Martin gross. So that's obviously a really clear indication of how Ben Austin feels about Liam Martin. Great to see Benny in the chat. Alrighty, jumping over to our centres. And look, I can't believe I'm doing it again, week in, week out. I keep playing KL Iro, and I keep getting disappointed. The scores keep going below par since he's come back from that injury, but I just continue to go back to the well. And look, it's probably for good reason. We've got the history of him being an absolute try-scoring machine. And we just saw the Raiders give up bulk points to the left side that you touched on earlier. So I think for me, I want a piece of that left side of the Sharks. Look, little hint for our wingers spot, but we're not playing Muatalo yet unless something drastic happens and we need to make a change. So I want a bit of a share there in KL Aero. The Raiders have allowed 4 more points to left centres than right centres against top 8 sides this season as well. So that sort of aligns with that idea of the left having a bit more say in the try-scoring opportunities there. For me, the other player that I'm going to pair him with is Matt Timoko. And I thought it was a bit of a pod, but just looking at the chat, Sif Kang has jumped straight in and said that he's actually going that KL, Iro and Timoko option as well. So maybe it's less of a pod. I thought it was going to be a pod because he's just come off a score of negative 1.3. And I feel like that would scare a lot of coaches. But I'm actually keen on him for that reason, that if a lot of players or a lot of coaches aren't looking at him, he's had prior to that negative score, he's had solid games against top 8 sides, averaging 45 this season. And we know that he's better than that negative 1.3. He just didn't have a lot of opportunities and he just didn't look good there. And I feel like he's got an opportunity to really prove himself. And he might be the only player that probably is at full fitness after that because he didn't really get too much involvement in the game. So, yeah, for me, I'm looking at the pot of Timoko, Ed with Iro, but you've obviously got another player there that you're going to play that I think a lot of people will look at as well.
Yeah, I'll just touch on those two very quickly. Benny Austin earlier thought that I had been kidnapped due to my background, I think it was. He thought I might have been kept in a warehouse. Look, maybe that's what's happened to KL Iro. Someone else has kidnapped him, and someone else is wearing his jersey and is pretending to be KL Iro out there on the footy field. We saw Iro score about 9 tries in 9 matches before that injury, and he just looks like a completely different person. I've never torn a pec muscle. I imagine it's pretty painful. I've never had to go back and play NRL after doing it, but it must be pretty tough. So, look, I can understand why it's been his scores have been lower, but it's been, 3, 4, 5 matches in a row that it's just that middling 20-point scores. If he's ever going to score a good score, it's this weekend against the Canberra Raiders. We saw just how dominant the Broncos were when they finally realised they could attack that their left-hand side of the field up against the Raiders' right. Look, I think the Sharkies are going to go that way all night. If Jed Stewart and Matt Timoko don't introduce themselves to one another quick smart, the Sharkies are going to score plenty of points down that channel. I like the Matty Timoko shout, massive pod. I don't want to go anywhere near him after seeing that. I can't bear to put a player from the Canberra Raiders backline in my squad and them to go poorly and maybe lose the match. So I'll put some stock in players from other teams. Iro will be in my team, but I'm really liking Paul Alamotti. We wanted to play him last week because we thought there's a chance he could line up there on the left-hand side wing with the return of Brian To'o, who had been playing on the right. Tom Jenkins had been playing on the left predominantly. Alamotti was playing on the right in To'o's spot, but To'o came straight back into the side to the left-hand side of the field. To'o scored, Alamotti didn't, but Alamotti still had a really nice game. He made a couple of errors sort of early on, and it looks like he could have a Matty Timoko-esque sort of game. But look, he was really solid. He did actually make a line break, sort of the play after an error. And he looked really solid there on the right-hand side. We know that the Penrith Panthers are a high-powered offense and they can score plenty of points. It was just the left-hand side of the field that scored through Casey McLean and Brian To'o. We know that Cleary is pretty dominant there on the right-hand side. Dill Edwards loves to sweep on the right too. So, look, it's probably not going to be too long until Alamotti does find the try line. And I think the Penrith Panthers are capable of putting some points on this Canterbury Bulldogs backline, particularly if, Crichton doesn't play. Cherry's probably playing on the opposite side of the field. Burton's been playing in the halves all season. So, that's a little bit different to think about in terms of defence and, putting a shoulder into contact and all that sort of thing. So I think it's pretty favourable for the Panthers backline players. And we've got Brian To'o on our wings. So I'm just going to load up on both sides of the field for the Penrith Panthers once again. And I'm going to back Alamotti and hopefully he scores a try this week.
Yeah, I like it. And I think I'm not mistaken, Will Warbrick scored, 77 points last week on the same side. Sione Katoa scored 51.5 against the Dogs earlier in the season as well, in round 27. So I think there's opportunity there for Alamotti to have a big game. And like you said, the right side of the Panthers, although that didn't come off last week, I think it's still a massive attacking upside to that right side. Dylan Edwards sweeping around the back, etc. I think that, bodes well and could spell some success for Alamotti. So, yeah, I really like that shout. And potentially, if I get scared of the pod in Timoko, I'd definitely look at Alamotti, but he's going to find his way into probably 2 or 3 of my teams elsewhere across the competition as well. I'll just be sticking with the pod in one of my main competitions. But yeah, like you said, you're then going to pair him with someone like Brian To'o in your wing. And again, I guess I posed that question last week. You're happy to play both wingers in the same side. And I think you've answered that question quite well, that Brian To'o obviously had a big game last week. Alamotti wasn't as big, but I think there's plenty of opportunities. So I think there's no reason why you don't play both of them. I'll be looking at playing To'o as well. And then it's going to be a combination of either Karaz or I think Muatalo. I'm still debating the Sharks wingers and which way we go. But do you want to talk through Brian To'o first, and then we'll get to our second one?
Yeah, look, that left-hand side of the field for the Panthers has actually been more fortuitous in terms of fantasy scoring for big parts of this season, particularly with Casey McLean and Tommy Jenkins there. So I think Brian To'o is in some really nice real estate there. They're expected to win reasonably well there against the Doggies. It's also the earlier Sunday game, and I think that may play a bit of a factor. Obviously, the night games tend to have a little bit more dew. It's going to be a little bit colder, probably breezier down there in the nation's capital on Saturday night. So there may just not quite be the same amount of freedom and room for those outside backs. But Sunday afternoon, 4 o'clock, let's hope the weather's pretty nice. I can see there being plenty of points, and it could still be a close game, but I can still see the Panthers scoring a number of tries, and Brian Toto is probably likely to find himself on the try scoring sheet again. And if the ball goes to the right-hand side, we know that Biz is going to get through plenty of work anyway. He doesn't need to score a try to have a big score. Someone like Alamotti probably does. But Brian Toto will get it done with his work rate alone, and he's every chance of scoring big, or, scoring a bag of tries. And you don't want to be missing out on someone with such good work rate, someone playing on the back of such a good footy side who can score plenty of tries. So, yeah, I think Brian Toto has to be pretty popular in this spot. And like you mentioned, Jacob Kiraz against the Penrith Panthers, probably a little tough spot for him. But Ronaldo Mulitalo outside Kaoliro, that same part of the field where the Canberra Raiders got absolutely embarrassed last weekend, there's plenty of upside in people going for Ronaldo. I can't quite get there myself with Kaoliro, so I'm just going to go the safety. Like Toto, Kiraz will get through plenty of work. He'll get through plenty of meters returning the footy. He loves an offload. He's thrown some silly ones in the past, so let's hope he doesn't put that in the cupboard and not throw any at all. But the Bulldogs are going to need to promote the ball. They're going to need to play a little bit different to usual to sort of match this Panthers team, and that'll come from the how they get out of their own end. If they can get on a roll through their outside backs, getting some good yards, and then those middle forwards rolling off the back of that. So I think Kiraz has a really big role early on in that tackle count. And look, any winger is very capable of falling over the line and scoring a try on their day. And Kiraz is one of the better finishers in the competition as well.
Yeah, I agree. And I really love what Kiraz has been doing, both, with the ball in attack, and then obviously the base stats that he racks up as well. And look, obviously last week he was named on the bench or in the extended squad. He did come into the starting side against the Storm, and rewarded coaches who kept him in the side or brought him in at last minute with a very nice 60 GDS points. Obviously, as you said, he lines up against the Panthers, who've actually been more vulnerable to right side wingers than their left counterparts as well, which is great to see for Kiraz. The Panthers allowing an extra 8 GDS points on average to the top 8 right side wingers, which is awesome. The downside for me is Kiraz has had 2 games against the Panthers earlier in the season, and he's only come away with a 41 and a 34. Which is a little bit concerning. But then again, there's some changes in that halves and the centre pairing, etc., which may impact that scoring even further as well. So if you are a little bit concerned, then someone like Ronaldo Mulitalo might be the option there. I think I'll stick with the safety at the moment in that man of Kiraz. But look, a couple of things that you touched on. Firstly, I love that you touched on that the premise of the afternoon game on a Sunday. I'm currently doing a deep data dive for the season and putting together some information around how day versus night games impact GDS scoring, as well as how weather is impacting GDS scoring. So I'll be putting together a little bit of stuff, something for the start of 2026 to hopefully help coaches get a better understanding of potentially playing the day games versus the night and what wet weather does to our potential in GDS scoring. So that's something to keep an eye on in the future as well. It might also help in making some decisions. The other thing that if you are sitting there and you're looking at your team and you're going, do I play one of the Sharks wingers? Which one do I play? I'm also in the process of, in the background, we're looking at building a bit of a program that will allow you, the coaches, to put in your 2 players that you would are thinking of playing and only being able to select one, and the program spitting out the best player available based on the stats provided by GDS, as well as the opposition data as well. So that's something that's in the works. So if you are sitting there thinking, I don't know who to play, whether it's Ronaldo Mulitalo or Sione Katoa, this program hopefully will give you that opportunity to help you out and give you some quick stats to make that decision as well. So keep an eye out for those 2 coming in the future. I'm looking forward to those. We're doing quite a bit of work, like I said, in the background on those. But yeah, for me, to finish off, I think Toto and Kiraz are locks, and then I'll probably play a Mulitalo maybe as a third winger, as a bit of something different in some of my other competitions as well.
Gee, that would be fairly spicy. Yeah, I have had a bit of a look at what you're cooking up there in the background, and I must say, it is an incredible tool. So stay tuned, everyone. We'll give you a bit of an update that as soon as we can. All right, mate. Finals week 2 fullbacks. Gee, we don't have many options, do we? That's a sad and sorry list. Apologies to anyone that we may have overlooked there, but for me, we don't necessarily have to play 3 fullbacks. I know it's a bit of a default for most coaches. It might be a great time to throw in a Ronaldo and Mulatalo on the bench alongside 2 of these guys. But look, we know the fullbacks typically get bigger scores because they're more involved in the game. They sweep both sides of the fields. They can score and set up tries, whereas the wingers are sort of, relying on the work to be done from the inside for them to get a score. So KO Weeks, Dylan Edwards, Connor Tracy, for me, are the clear 3 above that poor Will Kennedy. I know Connor Tracy's got a run in my team or 2 this season. He had 50 twice and below 30 once. So I'm sitting at 66% with Connor Tracy. Let's see where that ends up after this weekend. I've never played a Will Kennedy. I don't think I ever will. Did you end up playing him 1 week?
I think he ended up on about 28.
And how'd that go?
So he just not quite as good. I think the only person to follow me was Mel. She sent me a screenshot and I rewarded her with a couple of cards that I had up my sleeve for following me. But yeah, I agree. I'm on the Connor Tracy train as well this week. It seems like every week we discuss the issues that the Panthers have with their ability to limit opposition fullbacks. And the top 8 data really just paints that same picture. The Panthers have allowed an average of 50 GDS points to top 8 fullbacks this season, including a 50 from C&K last week, a 69 from Weeks in round 25, and then a 73 to Connor Tracy in round 17. So he's got runs on the board against the Penrith Panthers outfit. He obviously isn't as electric as a lot of the other fullbacks in the competition, but he really has an opportunity and I think to make some history potentially on his back by eliminating the defending champs. And look, I would love to be a part of that history by saying he was in my GDS side when he scored 80 points. He got over for a try, set one up, and he eliminated the Penrith Panthers. That would just be unreal. So I think, yeah, for me, Connor Tracy's in my side. As you said, Weeks is a great option this week. He's had a couple of mixed scores earlier in the season, but then had that top score of 72 last week against the Broncos, which is massive. And he now faces the Sharks, who allow 46 to opposition top 8 sides this season. So he should find plenty of opportunities to attack. I love his late footwork, and obviously he's got plenty of speed to get the job done as well. And then Edwards, obviously the lock at fullback for me. He's the number 1 fullback that's available. He hasn't wowed us with recent scores. He obviously had that 26 last week, and then round 25, he had a 45 as well against a top 8 side. But early in the season, he put together some good scores of 79, 82, and 78 against Storm, Roosters, and Bulldogs, respectively. So obviously, he's got the runs on the board as well against some top 8 sides, and we know that he'll step up for the big game. And I think it'll be interesting to see whether Cleary's right to kick or whether that job goes to Edwards or maybe even Alamotti as well. There's some opportunity there for maybe some points and, going up in 3s for some of those other players as well.
Yeah, that was quite surprising last weekend with Cleary kicking the first 2, I think it might have been, and then Edwards kicking after that. So if Cleary's still resting those niggles, that's a safe reason to put Dylan Edwards into that side, into your team. I don't think we need to overthink it, given that we don't have too many options. He hasn't been setting the world alight in terms of his fantasy output over the previous few weeks, but he's done it plenty of times this season. He's done it over the past few seasons as well. These guys are all big game players. They might have been coasting over the past few weeks until the footy gets a little bit more serious. It's now do or die, obviously. If they don't put a good match together, they're going home. So this is the match where Dylan Edwards runs his 250 meters. He'll break plenty of tackles. And yeah, like you said, if Cleary isn't kicking goals, it should be Edwards. And that means he's likely to get another 9 or 12 points to increase what has been a pretty reliable floor if we go on his season average rather than sort of his last month of footy. KO Weeks, so entertaining last week, despite the Raiders losing. Scored a nice try from close range, and then another one racing the length for another. He's one of those game breakers that can set the rugby league field alight. If he gets a little bit of space, he's just going to put on those afterburners and run past the opposition and score plenty of tries. I think if the Raiders are scoring points, he'll be heavily involved. So yeah, I think he'll be fairly popular alongside Dill Edwards. And we've spoken about the fullback against the Penrith Panthers. Don't overthink it. Play Connor Tracy.
Look, we've only got 4 options at fullback. We're going to play 3 of them. This is obviously an opportunity where I think most coaches will play those 3 as well. There might be a chance to play your salary pods here too, knowing that I'd say almost these 3 are going to be 100% owned. The halves are probably going to be 100% owned. That's where I'd be looking for my salary pods this week. Don't go funky with your edge pod with also putting some salary on them. If you've got that opportunity to play a Gold Edwards in contender, to play a Gold Cleary, just be, really consistent there and know that you'll be getting 10, 12 points additionally to the base score on the bronze card if anyone plays the bronze in that competition. So again, some opportunities there for some salary pods purely based on playing a higher rarity compared to some other coaches. Definitely an opportunity there.
So I hope we've helped you there on your question, Benny Austin. Thoughts on Tracy? If you need a Gold Tracy, mate, hit me up on the Discord or on Instagram, and you can slot that Gold Tracy straight into that starting lineup. All right, Dill, that's a look into who we're playing. Here's a bit of a summary for those playing at home. Not too many differences between us, just the Tapane versus AFB. Lindsay Smith v Max King, and Hosking against Nickera, obviously with a big asterisk next to that. Who are you pivoting to if maybe you get a little bit cold feet on Nickera?
Yeah,
and he's still
probably
on the
Hosking,
bench?
just for that a bit of attacking upside and some opportunities there, with especially if he goes and plays through the middle a little bit as well to give some of those bigger forwards a rest like they probably need it. I think Hosking will be the option there.
Beauty. Righto. Last week, we changed how a Bro Down Showdown worked slightly. Rather than the 3 versus 3 matchup, we had a 4v4. Look, this is a really interesting one. On the surface, it looks like a big win to Dill, 3-1. Isaiah Yeo, Nico Hines, Reece Walsh there on Sunday afternoon. Coming home for him and winning the week 1 of finals, Bro Down Showdown, 3-1. But let me just tell you, for those playing at home, it wasn't as much of a blowout as it may appear. Dill scored, for those 4 players, Dill scored 259.87 points, 259.87. My total points from the 4 players were 260.73. So about 0.84 more than Dill, despite going down 3. I think we decided it wouldn't be total points. It'll be player versus player. So with that in mind, I have pre-opened a 9-player common pack, and Dill is going to spin a wheel. I think there were heaps of people that voted for you last week, weren't they, Matt?
Yeah, there was plenty of people that were confident in my ability to pick the correct players. And you can see them on screen now on the wheel. We had a total of 1 in Matty P voting for Dill for the Bro Down Showdown. So congratulations, Matty P. I'll spin the wheel here, and mate, you are going to be our lucky winner this week. It just goes to show you've got to have some faith in Dill. I know that a couple of people said apologies and were apologetic that they didn't vote for me. Well, there's a bit of egg on your face now for those people. But good fun there. So hopefully Matty P gets a couple of good cards here. Let's get into it and see what we can get for Matty P.
All right, we got 9. We got 9 cards on screen. What do we want to do, Dill?
Let's give him all, mate. Let's give Matty P all 9 cards, because he showed some faith. He kept the faith in little old me, and I got the job done. Let's give him 9 cards.
Can we do one thing? Let me meet you somewhere. Let's give him 8. Let's give him 8 because it's easier to transfer in 2 trades. And it'll be funny. You're going to pick 1 card for me to keep, or actually for you if you want it. But Matty's going to get the other 8. I think that'll be fun.
Okay, well, I'll pick the middle card for you or me.
So this is not for Matty. The
rest of them are for Matty.
All righty. Will Penasini. I hope you didn't want him, mate, because he's not yours. So we'll get to that in a sec. Got a Matty Arthur, a Luke Garner, Elliott, Kerr, not looking good at the moment. Ryan Couchman, the wrong Couchman.
Wrong one.
Sione Finau, a Dill Lucas Silva. That'll come in handy.
Card.
And we've got a bit of a plat here. Who is it going to be? That's a pretty sad and sorry pack.
Oh, mate.
Poor Matty P, the only one that showed a bit of faith. And he's walking home with the silver Dill Lucas. You still can't complain at that.
Mate,
hit us up, Matty, on Discord or on Instagram, and we'll get those cards out to you. Probably no rush, since there only is really one finals player. You probably don't want to be playing Luke Garner for his 19 minutes off the bench, but hopefully a few come in handy for next season, mate. Well done, and thanks for the support as always.
And all right. Quickly, that probably shows what you shouldn't be doing at the back end of the season. And if you've got any of those packs that you have won throughout the season, probably a good idea, probably just to hold on to them now and save them for next season when the early player pool is updated. And we've got a better idea of who's playing and who's not playing at the start of the season. So if you've got those packs there sitting there and you really want to open them, that probably shows you that there are some players in there that you're not going to run out at all.
And it's not easy to do, is it? It's pretty hard to see a pack unopened. Should we show the viewers my self-control?
Yeah, go on. Why not?
So I have a quick scroll here through my unopened packs. It gets better. And these are all going to be opened heading into, we jump on a couple of shows before round one kicks off.
You are the definition of willpower to keep those elites in your packs there. That's unreal work.
It's tough. It's not easy. I've had to speak with some specialists about it, but no, in all seriousness, keep hanging on those cards, keep hanging on those packs. Just pretend like they don't exist. You'll thank yourself for them next year, I promise. All right, so this week, Dill and I have picked one player from each match, and they will go head-to-head. You're reading crossways on your page. So Dill versus Dill's got KO Weeks against my Hudson Young. He's gone Brayley over my Nico Hines, Karaz v Preston, and Nathan Cleary versus Isaiah Eo. If you think Dill is going to win 3-1 again, 4-0, or if it's 2-all, he needs to have the top scoring player across all 8. Comment Dill's name. Surely there's going to be a few more than just one this week. If you think I can turn the tables and bounce back with Hutto Young, Nico Hines, Preston, and Isaiah Yeo, make sure you comment me as well. Either comment now during the chat or on the YouTube video once this goes live. I think this is a pretty tough one, Dill. This is going to be pretty close.
Yeah, it's pretty close. And I love that it's in each game so we can follow along and work out at the end of the game how we're traveling. And we might keep that updated over on the Discord and Instagram as well. So don't forget, jump over to the Game Day Squad Discord as well as our Instagram at Fantasy Bros AU. And we might keep a tally of how we're going. And a reminder, if it is 2-all, as Stu said, it'll go to the highest scoring player. So that will be the tiebreaker there. So already we've got a few going. Dill, Walkie's got some faith in me this week. That's good to see. Sif Kanga's jumped back in and picked Stu. So we've got plenty going either side. Alrighty, that about does it for the second final show. We've only got a few shows left. Obviously, preliminary finals happening next week. Next round. So we'll have another show coming to you Wednesday, the 24th of September at 7 p.m. AEST, like always. Don't forget as well, we do have the prize card draft that is live from 1 p.m. this Sunday afternoon. We are so keen for that. We cannot wait. I'll be dressed up. I don't know about Stu, what he's going to wear, but it'll be good either way. And as we said, there might be a cheeky watch along somewhere down the coast at 4:05. In the afternoon to see the doggies roll over the top of the Panthers and get rid of those cheating Panthers. Am I allowed to say that on screen? I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but too bad. But awesome work. Thank you very much for everyone commenting. We've still got plenty coming through. Stephen's gone Dill as well. Walkie's put up that he's never commented on Brodown Showdown. He's never backed a winner on Brodown Showdown. So that might be the jinx there. He might be the one that is jinxing whoever the loser is. So hopefully I can break that jinx this weekend. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Another unreal show. We're looking forward to coming to you this Sunday and then again next Wednesday. Good luck with your teams. Good luck, Stu. Hopefully we can find a bit of a podium for the bros this weekend.